I'm Kate, I'm an alcoholic. I'm very nervous, but I'll be okay. I really loved the reading on the promises, and I remember being in the rooms in early recovery and listening to those promises and thinking that they were so unattainable, and I got quite emotional. Thank goodness for this mask, because it can cover the emotions. But yeah, those promises have been fulfilled, and it's amazing. It's amazing to have that realization and that awareness today that they have come true for me, Sure. I'm going to start from the beginning and share how it was, what it was like, and what it's like now. And it's a long story, so I'm going to try and compact it. So, childhood was traumatizing, Foundation of my life was extremely rocky, and it started with my mom leaving my dad, and we moved straight out of my dad's house and straight into my stepfather's house. And of course, when I was that age, I didn't know what was going on. I can't really remember staying in my dad's house. But when I was old enough to understand what went on, I figured it out for myself. My mother had cheated on my father and had gotten together with this guy down the road. So yeah, we literally moved from the top of the road to the bottom in this cul-de-sac. And yeah, she moved us straight into the lion's den, myself and my brother. My brother is about 18 months younger than me. He is in recovery at the moment. Not quite in the rooms, but I've become open-minded to how people can get recovery and not be in the rooms. And I've had to be open-minded to that because I really want what's best for him, So at the moment, I think he's okay, and he's in Joburg in a recovery house. So yeah, my brother and I were very close. We went through all of that stuff together. My mom, there was domestic violence was going on. I was being abused by the neighbor, and it was very dysfunctional household. I have generational alcoholism in my family. Myself, my brother, and my grandmother all went to the same treatment center. And even though my parents were not alcoholics, like that dysfunction and stuff is all just carried on through our families. So yeah, childhood was rough. I was a mess. I didn't feel like I fitted in. I was separate and apart from. I went to school, hardly made any friends. I had warts all over my hands. My mom cut my hair short like a boy, and they dressed me funny, and it was really uncomfortable, I was really like... I look back at photos of myself when I was little, and I remember what I was thinking at that age. And when I look at other children, like small children, the similar age, like kids shouldn't be thinking like that, And yet I had the secret. I was being abused and I kept it a secret. That cliche, don't tell anybody, I'll give you sweets and stuff. And I say it quite blasé because I don't really want to, I don't want to go to that pain right now. But yeah, so through those years, it was about 5 years. I was 3.5 when we moved in there, and I was about 9 years old when we moved out, and life changed all of a sudden for the best. I went to a new school. My mom had met another guy. He was lovely. I had this huge extended family. There were like 12 girls in my class, and there was only one class per standard, and all the girls wanted to be my friend, And I excelled in academics, I excelled in sports, and I loved school, and I loved my friends, and I was excited. I didn't want to miss school. But things changed when I got into high school. I was a small fish in a big pond. I was in like the less academically gifted classes, to put it, mildly. So and I started looking around at the girls. I was in an all-girls school, and looking at what they were doing, and my perception of what cool looked like, terminally hip, fatally cool. And like the girls who are going out to the under 18 clubs and smoking cigarettes and drinking and hooking up with boys, like that seemed cool for me, My perception was warped already. And then I started dressing like them. And you go through those trends. And back then it was all surfer clothing and going to the beach. And I'd do all those things, like the healthier kind of living things, and go to the beach. But when I started going out and really like going out to the clubs and using and drinking, that stuff fell away. And I'd go out all night and I'd sleep all day. And that was early on, and that was fun. That's what I lived for. I had a one-track mind. I could find fun at the clubs, and I had to drink and use, and that's how it was. I had curfew. I never made curfew. I always broke the rules. Hitchhiking by myself at 4 o'clock in the morning, just putting myself at risk, getting picked up by the cops for possession, and I was only 16, I was really, really naughty as a teenager. But I don't share. I often miss sharing about my dad's death. I was 15 years old in Standard 7, and my dad died quite brutally. He was murdered out on a farm in 1994. And we didn't have much of a solid relationship with him because he lived out in the middle of Natal. And so we hardly saw him, and I was devastated, because I was in that dysfunctional household, because it was so painful. My father became like my hero, like he would save me. My dad was supposed to save me. So when he died, I was obliterated. And that was my Standard 7 year. That's when I started all this stuff. And it's pretty much the same time that I picked up my first drink, basically. My brother had already been drinking. Some neighborhood guys had got him drunk, and he was like the clown, and they all had a good laugh at him. And then he came home to me and told me how wonderful it is. And I thought, wow, I want to do that, So that's where it all picked up. Through my school years, I became a raver towards my matric year. This was still the 90s. I had short bleach blonde hair. We used to, the suckers, the whistles, the striped bell bottoms, like the whole shebang. That was my life. That's what I aspired to. That's where the fun was, nothing else. I didn't concentrate on schoolwork. I met my first long-term boyfriend. Him and his friends all used and drank, and it was like a ceremony to get all dressed up and go out to the clubs, and get absolutely wasted. That's what it was, and that's what we lived for. There was not much other excitement that I could, I was addicted to excitement. So that relationship lasted about 5 years. We broke up. I was single for about 8 months, maybe. The wheels really fell off. I was getting trashed every weekend. On Sunday, I'd go out and play pool and drink some more, and then crawl up the stairs on a Sunday afternoon. And then, I met my last ex in Active. And I met him in a club, of course. and him and all his friends were using, and the progression of the disease just hit the floor running. We would go to the clubs, we would score, we would have fun, go home and use some more. Then what happened was it started happening that we would just go to the clubs and score and go home and use. And then we had this group of friends that we did this with, And eventually the group of friends fell away, and eventually the clubs fell away, and then it was just the two of us using at home. And that was every weekend. And then I started using during the week, so for every 3 days I was only sleeping 1 day. And I was quite responsible in the half-hearted responsible. And I had a job, and I'd earn my salary and stuff, hardly go to work on a Monday, of course. Very dishonest, very low self-esteem, and it became really painful. My disease progressed, and of course we were using more and using more often. And I came to a point one Sunday late afternoon when I woke up. I was depressed, I was bankrupt financially, and I'd been using all weekend, and I didn't want to do that anymore. And I begged him to stop using. I was crying my heart out. I was begging him, because if he stopped using, then I'd be able to stop using. And what he did was, he got in his car and he went off to go and drink with his mates. And that was the first time that I wanted to stop. And I remember listing all these really healthy life stuff that I wanted to do. I wanted to enjoy the day. I wanted to enjoy a Saturday morning, go to the beach, go for a hike, do all that stuff, outdoorsy. I'm quite, I like the great outdoors, And there was a pull in me to live. I didn't want to live in that washing machine, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to, And a year or two later, my disease progressed, and I ended up using something that I thought was really scummy. I had been drinking and carrying on the whole night, and I believe by that point I was completely powerless, because I just could not say no. Even though I disliked it, I had this negative stigma of it. My brother had been using, and his life was falling to pieces, and in and out of prisons, and on and off the streets, and all sorts of stuff. And I didn't want to use that, And it took them about half an hour to convince me, and then I said I would, but I swore them to secrecy, because I didn't want anybody to know, And fast forward to 6 months after that, I tried it again. And at that point, my mom had been diagnosed with breast cancer. I started using again. I was using every day. I was trying to be there for my mom. So I moved into the flat with her, and I was getting sick in the bathroom, and she started picking up on it, and so she was getting in the way of my using, and she started asking questions. And so I was only there to support her for a week. And I think within a month, or maybe even less, when I tried to stop, I got very sick. And I got the fright of my life when I realized I couldn't stop. And I started going to doctors, to a doctor, and getting medication to help me stop. And then I was getting depressed because I didn't want to live like this, and I was depressed because I was so fearful, because I was hooked and I couldn't stop. And so let me get some medication for my depression, and then medication to help me stop, And when that medication ran out, then I was using, and it was just like this mess. And I couldn't handle life at all. My mom was sick. My third stepdad by then had a major stroke. my brother had landed up in getting arrested, and I had to bail him out of CR SWAT or something, I can't remember. And the only reason why I went back there was so I could get that bail money back, you know. And I hid behind the label of being depressed. And I had the medication, so I could show everybody that my problem was I was depressed, and so I hid my addiction. And I didn't live at home. My mom was trying to feed me iron tablets because I was really white and pasty, and that's how I tried to keep it under the radar. And my life was completely unmanageable. And my boss came to me and said, you have 1 month's unpaid leave to sort out your depression. And that's what I did. And during that month, I had my rock bottom. There was a whole bunch of chaotic stuff that went down, me and my ex, and I had gone away. My aunt had previously helped my brother, so at the end, like, it was literally a week before I had to go to work where the wheels just completely came off, and I found myself alone in my flat scavenging around for something just to take the pain away and the withdrawal. And I couldn't find anything, and I picked up the phone and I spoke to my ex and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I picked up the phone to my aunt and I asked her for help, you know. And that was the beginning of my journey in recovery. But I didn't want to go to treatment because I didn't want people at work to find out what I'd been using. I didn't want my best friends to find out, so I did this outpatient program. I think I was clean for about a month, and then I started drinking. And then I started using, but just not that other stuff, you know. Funnily enough, my life started becoming a bit manageable. I managed to get a new job. I broke up with my ex. I got a new place to stay, and things seemed to look up for me. But starting that new job, I had 3 months of probation. And within those 3 months, my mom had gotten really, really sick. I couldn't handle anything. And she landed up going in and out of hospital for treatment, and I was using. I decided I had a huge blackout that I only found out about when I was about 2 years clean, and my boss and a couple of ladies at work had an intervention and they put me into treatment, and I was safe. Talking about all that stuff is really hard, you know. Being an active is really like, there's so much suffering and pain. I felt like I was consistently fighting to stop using, you know. I was in this turmoil of pain and trauma, and I just couldn't stop. And when I finally got into treatment, I was in a place where I was safe. I was able to just get honest about what I had done. That was the biggest relief for me, was just getting honest. My perception about drinking at that stage was like, oh my gosh, now I'm in treatment, and like, wow, I can't have a drink for the rest of my life, you know. And that was hard. It was really huge. And in treatment, I learned about the concept of just for today. Just for today. I don't need to have a drink. And it became so much more simpler for me, you know. We had meetings. AA came into the treatment center that I was at. I was only there for 28 days, so it was like, 3 or 4 weeks. We had 2 meetings from the different fellowships every week. And there were 2 ladies that came in, and the one lady shared her recovery. And that's where I got that message, you know. She was able to sit in front of a group of people and share about what went on for her, and she shared about my biggest secret. And of course, I completely related to the progression of the disease. The treatment center I was at only had 1 day a week of like aftercare program. I knew that I needed more because before I got into rehab, like I was using every day. I needed a meeting every single day when I got out of treatment. I did not trust myself. I was petrified of leaving. I had tried to stop so many times on my own, and I just couldn't do it. And I was scared. I didn't trust myself that I wouldn't pick up when I got out of treatment. So I needed something more. I needed something more than 1 day a week of aftercare treatment. And learning about the fellowship and coming into the rooms, and getting to 90 and 90 was easy because I was so fearful. I was so ashamed. I was so ashamed of what I had done and what had happened that I hid myself in the fellowship. And while I was in treatment, my best friend got married. I had to step down from being one of her bridesmaids. She covered for me and told her family that it was because my mom had passed away while I was in treatment. I was about 6 days clean and she passed away in hospice. And that was really painful for me. And what I did was I completely detached from that pain, and I found myself in the room praying to the ceiling and just saying, I can't deal with your death right now. I just need to get clean. I just need and that's what I did. And the world opened up when I came into recovery. Hanging around with people just like me was amazing. Being a part of belonging, being honest, the relief of being honest, listening to everybody's shares in the meetings, learning about recovery I was too nervous, I'm nervous as hell right now, but in early recovery I didn't say a thing. There wasn't a chance in hell I was going to open my mouth and share in front of a whole bunch of people, and I sat and I listened. And I got a sponsor, I got a really cool group of friends, and every day, thankfully I didn't lose my job. After I got out of treatment, I got out on a Friday, I went to a meeting that night, and then on the Monday I had to go back to work. And they had covered for me as well. And used the excuse that because my mom had passed away, that's why I needed so much leave, I think that's what they said. They probably, I think everybody was probably gossiping and telling everybody that I'd been in rehab anyway. That's the reality. So I learned very quickly about step 9, indirect amends. Very quickly, a friend of mine approached me, or one of my new friends in recovery, and she was actually my first sponsor, and she was trying to explain to me, you're in recovery now, and this is what you need to do. You need to go to work every day. That's indirect amends. You need to be honest, and that's what I did. And I learned about indirect amends towards myself or my mother, just getting to a meeting every day, practicing this program to the best of my ability, speaking to my sponsor, and I started the steps, And I was about 6 months clean. I hadn't done much work on step 1, and my sponsor relapsed, and I had to get a new sponsor, and she was really step orientated, and she hammered me into the steps. And I'm very grateful for her, and she was the same lady that sat in that H&R meeting and shared her story, and I got the message, and I asked her to be my sponsor because of that. And she got me through my first 5 steps, and she's the only one who knows my secrets. And I kind of like it that only one person knows. So anyway, and when I got into step 6, it took me a long time to work to do the active, handwritten steps. It took me a long time. Step 6, I was defect city. And I ended up changing sponsors about 2 or 3 times during that time. Got into a relationship. I was 18 months clean by this time. Like, I just stuffed around. And I was in this relationship on and off, and on and off, and on and off. Like a washing machine, stuck in the same bloody cycle over and over again for 2 years. And my one sponsor said to me, like, I can't help you anymore, you know. And I was doing service with another lady in the fellowship, and my dishonesty is more sinister. I don't tell blatant lies, I'm dishonest by omission. So all the stuff around the relationship and recovery was all like, I covered it all up, or I just didn't speak about it, you know. And with this lady in recovery doing service, I just got honest. Like, I was in pain, my sponsor had just fired me, and I just blurted it all out to her, you know. She was my friend, you know, and I needed to get honest. And it kind of dawned on me, like, hey, could you be my sponsor? And she said, I can sponsor you, but all you need to be is honest. And that's where I learned the true meaning of, like, being honest. And what happened for me, even though I couldn't leave that relationship because that's where my disease also is active and that stuff, what happened for me is my honesty helped me. It ended up growing somehow, and I got to a point where I was able to leave that relationship. And it was chaotic, and he was using and then not using, and then in psychosis, and then not in psychosis, in mania, and then depressed, and then we broke up, and a month later he committed suicide. And I was in so much pain. It was hectic. I think that night, like, everybody in the fellowship knew. They all came to that Friday night meeting. I found out at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon they were there to help me and to support me. They basically carried me through that. And on the Saturday afternoon, or the Saturday morning, I got ready and I was with members the whole day, and then we went to a ladies group. We used to have a meeting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And my friend shared a 1-year share, and I didn't hear a thing she said. I was sitting in complete, like, I was distraught. I was in so much pain, I wanted to kill myself, and I was planning how I was going to do it, step by step. And what happened for me after that meeting is that after we did the, serenity prayer at the end, I flopped back in my chair and I just broke. And I was crying hysterically. They ended up putting me on the floor because what do you do in that situation with someone who's just crying hysterically? It was, if I think about what my friends must have gone through watching me go through that, it must have been a bit traumatic for them. And so lying me on the floor was the only thing they could do. But what happened for me is that even though I was lying on the floor on my back, I had my hands over my face because I didn't want them to see me. I was ugly crying. From the hyperventilation, my hands started going numb and all sorts of weird things. And my friend pulled my hands away from my face, and I turned my face away from them. And in that moment, I was exposed. My heart, my chest was exposed. And I had this moment of, like, complete defeat. And it wasn't like I didn't say anything to anyone. I had my eyes closed. I just gave up, and I was like, take my life. And what happened was, I believe that I conceded defeat in that moment, and I stopped crying, I stopped hyperventilating, a calm went over me, and I sat up, and it was abrupt, from being a hot mess to just like complete calm. And my friend Leanne looked at me and she said, "How are you feeling?" And I said, "Well, I'm not 5 years behind and I'm not 5 years ahead. I'm just right here, right now." And from that point in my recovery, the best of my ability was like amazing. My willingness to do service and to be active in this program, and just my willingness to grow, to strengthen my conscious contact with my higher power. I was in so much pain that my conclusion to my problem was like, only God can take away this pain. I thought about it. I was very scared of using. I knew no amount of anything, no cocktail of anything would take away that pain, and only God can. And it was really hard for a long time. I still had thoughts of suicide, but like I got through it, and I got through it through the fellowship, the friends in the fellowship, my sponsor, meetings, service. I have a psychologist. I was really scared of using, and I'd asked her, I don't want to use, but if this pain is too much and I need to have something, like, can you please prescribe me medication? And she explained to me what medication would do. It would cut me off from the natural or healing process of grieving, and that she had monitored me. And so I saw her once a week. And I managed to get through that clean, and that was 10.5 years ago. So the growth in my recovery from then on was just completely changed. I was going this way, and now my life was going that way, and just everything. I just started prospering in my recovery, I got a new job in the legal field. I started studying. I did a diploma. I didn't get into a relationship for a very long time after that. The suggestion is 1 year or 2 years, and I did it. It lasted actually 3 years. And in those years I discovered what I really wanted to do. I was really committed to my career. I ended up signing up for a degree. Was still very involved with H&R, with service, with sponsees, all sorts, I was just living in the program. All my friends are in the program, and I'm safe and I belong here, I've never had the desire to leave. I've watched people leave, and it's not something that I want to do, I got into another relationship about 5 years ago, and life was busy, I had a really bad spell of complacency. Complacency is the enemy of people with clean time. And, I was studying law part-time, I was working full-time, I had this relationship. I don't need to do too many meetings anymore. My life is so full. I can do this. And what my higher power does for me, things for which I cannot do for myself, is that I started getting these people, like I had sponsees, but like people who would come in and leave, so it wasn't like long-term service in that area. But when I made that decision to stop going to meetings and stop being so involved in the fellowship, my higher power and the way he works is that I got all these different people at different times. There was about 5 people. Obviously it happened over a process, and they all asked me to sponsor them. And I knew straight away, I'm very aware of how my higher power works in my life, and I was like, okay, God, I get it, I get that I'm not supposed to leave. And And about 6 or 7 years ago, I saw a whole bunch of people leave, a whole group of people that I was friends with. They left the rooms. And I was kind of in there, and I dabbled in their stuff that they were doing. It was outside stuff. But I still came into rooms. It was religious stuff. And I know that the way that I practice my conscious contact with my higher power, even though it's outside the rooms, it works with recovery. It works with the 12 steps. The 12 steps gave me my higher power. When I came into the rooms, if you mentioned the word God, I'd like, ugh, I had a huge resentment towards religion and all that. So I call that complacency. I just got really complacent. Being 14 years clean, I feel like I'm in a valley. I've been working hard in this degree. I've got a goal in sight. It took me a long time to finish all 12 steps. I know this is not really the best message, but this is my experience only. It's kind of like my disclaimer. Don't do what I did. I worked the steps, and it took me about 5.5 years. I handed in my step 12 at the night of my 6-year share. And that's only because I've got this huge procrastination problem, massive. I've earned the nickname Procrasticate because of it. And when I signed up for the degree, I was looking around at universities and stuff, and I found this university that does a part-time program like lectures. UNISA wasn't working for me anymore. I'm really not, my self-discipline is like out the window, and I needed lectures, and so I found this part-time program, and they're like, it's a 6-year part-time program, and I thought, well, shit. 6 years is a long time, but it had taken me 6 years in recovery to finish all 12 steps. And so I used that principle of leopard crawling perseverance, and I applied it to this degree. And even though I'm in my 6th year of the degree, because I stuffed around, it's going to be the 6 years is like a minimum. You can only do it like 6 years and over. So next year will be my last year, and I'll God willing, we'll finish the degree at the end of next year. And the job that I'm in now, like when I got that job, it's in the legal fraternity. I have to share this because it was such a huge moment for me, and honesty as well. Is like at the time, I've been in that job for like 8 years. And at the time I was doing service at area, I was the treasurer, we were still writing out checks back then. And I was in this interview with 2 advocates, and it was just a secretarial position, and my current job at the time, we did appeal documents, and so there was some on his table, and it was kind of like a call card for me, like, okay, you've got a appeal record there, I work there, blah, blah, blah. And this guy, it was almost like a bit condescending. He said, do you know how to write out a check? And I was like, this is my opportunity, And I said, yes, well, I'm actually the treasurer for this fellowship on area level, and we write out checks, so yes, I know how to write out checks, and I'm so many years in recovery, and I don't drink, and I don't, And the other guy, funny enough, I didn't realize it at the time, but the other guy that was in the interview, he was the ethics lecturer for the pupils. And they have a strict code of conduct and ethics. And honesty is valued to a degree that I've never experienced before. And it was just amazing that just by being honest about who I was I got the job, you know, and like, and I'm on this way to this degree or this career that I'm still kind of finishing things off. It's like, I'm like a bit frustrated. I want to move forward. I want to get this stuff done, but it's not going to happen in my time. You know, I've still got to do more hard work. I was allergic to hard work for a long time. And you know what this has done for me? Even though I haven't gotten what I think I should get, you know, I'm getting something that God wants me to have. And I've really had to work hard to get my head around it. You know, when I was a kid, I didn't believe in myself. I thought I was stupid. I was on Ritalin. I was apparently ADHD or ADD or whatever the hell it's called. And I remember, you know, not being able to concentrate, being weak at English and all that stuff. So I grew up my life. I came into recovery believing that I was a bit intellectually challenged, you know. And my experience in recovery has completely obliterated that belief. Completely. And that's the way my higher power works in my life. And I'm not getting what I want. I'm getting what I need. So yeah, I think my time's up. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks to this group for inviting me to share here today. I'm really humbled by the organization and the poster that was sent around on WhatsApp. So yeah, thanks so much. It's been great to be here, and yeah, thanks for letting me share.